Prem Sabolo Shri Guru Maharaj ki Jai. Jai Sitaram, dear devotees. Swagatam, welcome back to Sooryoday, your Thursday morning programming here on radio and TV Jaagriti. On Radio Jaagriti from 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. I'm here on TV Jaagriti as well from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. dear devotees. Every Thursday morning you have your Sooryoday programming with yours truly, Shiva Janak Maharaj. And this morning, dear devotees, I'm sure that most of you on Friday gone, when the rest of the world or the rest of Trinidad and Tobago, was lost in the colors of the carnival season, you would have been steadfast in your focus and your devotion to Bhagwan Shiv. You see, dear devotees, and the question may arise, who will get the blessings? You see, dear devotees, you are where your mind is. There may be some of you who may be in the mandirs, but your mind was somewhere else, that you could have been somewhere else with some other friends, dear devotees. And then there may be others that were somewhere else, and they would have been thinking of their friends maybe in the mandir. And at the end of the day, there's an old katha. Who will get the blessings really and truly? The one who was thinking about the puja being done all the time, even though they were somewhere else, or the one who was in the puja and thinking about what is going on the outside of the mandir. And you saw this is how important your focus, your thoughts is. So hopefully, or many of you, or all of you who were in the mandir, your thoughts were solely focused on Bhagwan Shiv that night. In the many mandirs that we had, and around the world as well, as we celebrated Mahashivratri, dear devotees. And to give a little highlights of our Maha celebrations or Maha Utsav for the Mahashivratri and the Suri village Shiv Mandir, dear devotees. I'd like to begin this morning's programming by sharing with you this beautiful video of some of our memories of that night. And it's so beautiful, so many people, hundreds of people passing through for the night, dear devotees, many groups passing through for the night. And so it was such an occasion, with so beautifully decorated. The mandir was in Bhagwan's choices, blessings upon each and everyone who made it happen. You see, it was a lot of hard work, and those who put their time in, who made their donations, Bhagwan's choices, blessings upon each and every one of you devotees. And so we share our celebrations with you in this next song and video. Umapati Mahadev ki Jai Ho. Umapati Mahadev ki Jai Ho. Jai Sitaram, dear devotees. Swagatam, welcome back to Sooryoday with yours truly, Shiva Janak Maharaj. A beautiful day it is here, and yes, devotees, I'm sure many of you seeing and looking at those beautiful pictures of our memories of Mahashivratri there at the Suri village Shiv Mandir. You would like to join us next year, but you don't have to wait till next year. We have so many occasions coming up, and when you hear, you all are invited to join us. It's a very beautiful little mandir there in the foothills of the mountains of the northern range, dear devotees, there in nature. You get to experience the home of the Shiv Parivar, dear devotees. Our motto is the family that prays together stays together. So, dear devotees, we had a very beautiful, wonderful time. The hundreds of people who would have passed throughout the night, dear devotees, many groups, and everyone who have worked so hard to that experience. We bless each and every one of you. And dear devotees, 4 years ago in 2016 on my Facebook page, I got a memory of a Sooryoday programming we had around this time 4 years ago, dear devotees, and it reads that violence is violence. Violence is given many names today. Two major types of are domestic and school violence. However, violence is violence. There is no accepted name or type of violence. And you see, dear devotees, this was 4 years ago. However, in mainstream media, we do see an upsurge of the conversation on school violence and as well domestic violence. As we see an upsurge once again. I don't know if it's the time of the year. We have to do further empirical research to make a decision like that. But from our own observances, we see during this time of the year, there's a major upsurge of this type of violence. One has to think what can be some of the causes of this around this time of the year, dear devotees. However, looking at the violence, dear devotees, and its impact on the world, in further research it says that there are many causes of violence, you see, dear devotees. And one of the research papers says the world's most disturbing topic nowadays is violence. People are not responsible anymore. They don't even know what their personal responsibilities are. Respect your old elders, manners, respecting your elders, manners and responsibility are an obsession of the past. Media and drugs play a very important role in violence in our society, and this is what the leading researchers, their devotees. And you see, they highlighted some of the problems being responsibilities in your personal responsibilities. This is called your dharma. Yes, devotees. So your very first cause of this breakdown and the aggregation of society and increase in violence has to do with people not doing or living according to their Varan Ashram. You see, in Sanatan Dharam, there's something called Varan Ashram. These are your stages in life, dear devotees, and your status in life according to your duties that you have to do. More importantly, when we look at school violence and we look at violence in the home, we are looking at the very first two ashrams. And those ashrams are the very first as the brahmachari stage in your life, or the age of where you have that of study, dear devotees, and celibacy. And those two things are very important at the first stage in your life. All you have to do really and truly is study your work. Let your parents take care of you. We know that society now, if there are not children who are studying their work, and if they are studying other things that adults may do, then there will be a problem, dear devotees. We also have the case where the parents not taking care of the children have to take care of themselves, which is not their dharma at that age and that stage in their life. And so we have all these as contributing problems. And then we have the next stage in your life where you are supposed to use the acquired wealth, or you're supposed to acquire wealth based on the dharmic ways of accumulating wealth, the art that you do accumulate according to dharmic ways. And you do so by performing your duties responsibly, David. Taking care of your family. These are your duties at this stage in your life. And so when we have people not taking care, and violence could never be a way of taking care of your spouse or your family. It's definitely not one of the ways that you take care of them. You have to protect, not hurt. And so these are some of the traditions that we have that are going away there. We're disappearing, their devotees. We need to bring it back. We need to inform and let people know what are their expectations, what are their responsibilities, what are their duties, what is their dharma according to their stages in life. And this is something that we need to look at in more details. Maybe in your mandirs, maybe start the discussions with your gurus. If you have that personal interest, you have that problem, start the discussion with your gurus. Find out what are your duties as parents, as children, and try to follow your duties. You see, we live in a world where there are so many rights. And rights are good, but if you do your duty, then we will not have to worry about what your rights are, dear devotees. As we continue this morning speaking on violence in schools and violence in the home, we have this beautiful selection. It's one that is given by one of the avatar, the ninth avatar of Bhagwan Sri Vishnu, one of his most important teachings that he has taught the world. Umapati Mahadev ki jai, Shri Buddha Maharaj ki jai ho. प्रेम से बोलो श्री बुद्ध महाराज की जय हो. Jai Sitaram, dear devotees. Swagatam. Welcome back to Sooryoday. And this morning we are discussing a world or society without violence. How do we get that violence out of our society? And this discussion can go on for weeks. However, we are focusing this morning on the uprise of school violence and violence in the homes. And thus far we have discussed the brahmachari stage and the grihastri stages of our lives, those ashrams, their devotees, varan ashram, that we should take heed of and learn more about. Next, their devotees, in that selection that you just heard, Pratama Dharma Ahimsa, that Buddha ji himself, their devotees, what he propagated was ahimsa. Himsa means violence, and ahimsa, when you put that prefix of ah before the himsa, ahimsa, it becomes the opposite, which means non-violence. So if we want a society without violence, of course we have to first be non-violent. And ahimsa was something that was practiced and won the independence of Bharat India, their devotees, where you had Mahatma Gandhi himself practicing ahimsa and winning the war against those who propagated himsa, their devotees, or violence. And so, their devotees, this is what was taught by that form of Bhagwan Sri Vishnu in the form of Lord Buddha. He taught we must have love for each and every living being. We must have compassion for those who are ill, those who are poor, those who are less fortunate. We must have that compassion. We must have love for everyone, their devotees, and we must love and not hurt others, their devotees, and every living creature. It is not only for human beings, their devotees. When you have ahimsa, non-violence in your heart, in your mind, in your soul, then you cannot hurt the smallest of insects, even, their devotees. And so ahimsa is also one of the Ashtanga Yoga, their devotees. There's yama niyams, and ahimsa is one of the first things that one must practice in order to have that yoga, that union with Bhagwan. You see how very important the essence or the core of the teachings of Sanatana Dharma has to do with non-violence. Therefore, how can we now say in our homes and in our schools allow this violence? You see, in many schools we see around the world that they are now practicing yoga, they are now practicing meditation, and in doing so they are teaching the Ashtanga Yoga, or the 8 limbs of yoga. And the very first one that one must think is to have non-violent thoughts. You see, violence is not only physical, it's also verbal, it's mental, even thinking. Our scriptures say thinking of doing something bad, thinking of saying something bad is a dry sin. And when you actually say something bad or you actually do something bad, it's called a wet sin. So a sin is a sin no matter. So violence starts in the mind, their devotees, and we have to curb that from there, and we have to instill this in our children. As the article wrote, you know, that we wrote from the research, it says respect for elders, manners and responsibilities are no longer, they are things of the past. So what are we teaching our children? Are we in the homes teaching them to have respect for their elders? How do we teach them that? You see, from a young age, we have to teach them to respect themselves and to respect their mother and father. They are the first gurus, they are the ones who teach. And so we have to teach that respect and love and non-violence. Parents, you have to be the example. You cannot use verbal abuse, you cannot use physical abuse to rectify situations, right? You have to find ways to not let the stresses of the society, stresses of the job, bring it into your home. And so when you teach your children how to deal with the stresses of life and not let it aggravate their mind and their actions, their devotees, and make them say things they don't mean and make them do things that they shouldn't be doing. And this is where now that ahimsa, or that non-violence, it starts in your mind. You have to inculcate that in your children from a very young age, dear devotees. And so in society, it's a very difficult thing. You may do it in your home and others may not, and when your children go out to schools, so we have to deal with each case individually as it may be. But if we all make the attempt, we can change the world. We can be the change we want to see in the world. This is what Mahatma Gandhi also taught us. Beside ahimsa, be the change you want to see in the world, dear devotees, and start in your own homes, dear devotees. Eradicate, take away the violence, take away the abuse from your homes, and so it will transfer now into the schools, dear devotees. As we pray once again, in this beautiful selection, it tells that, that we must have that compassion and love for all of Bhagwan's creations. Umapati Mahadev ki jai, Shri Vishnu Bhagwan ki jai. Prem Sabolo Shri Vishnu Bhagwan ki jai ho. Jai Sitaram, dear devotees. Swagatam. Welcome back to Sooryoday. Beautiful selection, beautiful bhajan. A true devotee of Bhagwan, he sees and loves each and every one, dear devotees. He has compassion for all their devotees, and he treats all with respect and dignity. And dear devotees, this is how, when we look at others, if we see that divinity within them, then how can we be violent? How can we hurt them, dear devotees, with our words, our thoughts, our deeds? How can we? So, dear devotees, as we continue our discussion this morning on how can we have a society without violence, now I'd like to focus on what the research is saying. That is one of the major, 90% of the people interviewed say that media is one of the major influences on that of violence in our society. What it says here, it says media is one of the main sources of violence in our society. The movies of the new era, video games and TV programs, everything have different kinds of violence. Many video games are full of violence, and children around 7 years or older love to play these kinds of games. And we see this all the time, their devotees. And so teenagers now, they want to put into practice, they want to be like the video games. We saw recently a killing in one of the countries where it was like a first shooter game, the way they promoted and killed so many innocent people while they were praying, their devotees. And so these are these kind of things. They mentioned the movies. Many of the movies, they are rated and they have AL and AC, adult content, adult language. And what are we really telling our children when these ratings come on? Are we saying that adult language and adult content are things that you can say and do when you're older, when you're an adult? Is it okay to do these things? Of course not, dear devotees. That type of foul language and that type of actions are not adult content and adult language. It should not even be there, dear devotees. Actually, it's language that we should not be using, even as adults. So why do we call it adult language? We're sending a psychological message to our children that it's okay and it's not okay, dear devotees. Therefore, also, likewise, the games that they play, they are so violent. It's a lot of fighting and shooting and killing and so many violent. And these children now, it's inculcated in them the amount of hours they spend playing these games, that when they go into real life, into society, in schools, then the violence, it becomes real, their devotees. So, that is the solution. Binu Satasang. Binu Satasang, their devotees, be in the company of the holy and the saintly ones, be in the company of Satasang, of truth, of truthfulness and righteousness and peacefulness, their devotees. You have to create that environment. Allow your children to be in those environments. We're not saying don't play the games, but don't play too much of it. also find that balance, their devotees. Take them to the mandirs. Let them get involved in your youth groups. Let them do some charity. If you fill their time with so much activities and engaging activities that they are interested in, then they will not find the time for these negative things, their devotees. So we all have our work cut out for us. So as we leave you today, I'll be continuing on this topic at the Suri Village Shiv Mandir. All of you are welcome to join me there this Sunday from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. We'll continue discussions on how can we curb violence in our society, dear devotees. How can we have a society without violence? How can we stop the violence, as you have been seeing with that image that I have been putting on the screen, dear devotees, with the hand with the smiley faces representing the different members of your family, and how can you keep them safe and protected in this society. So join us, the Suri Village Shiv Mandir. You can find us on YouTube, on Facebook, and you can get the directions. We have the Google directions. You can follow directly to the mandir. We have lots of new parking available for all, and you will really enjoy and uplift yourself. A family that prays together, stays together. That's the environment that we have there, as we have our weekly spiritual retreat for families at the Suri Village Shiv Mandir. So as we leave you this morning, we pray, Om Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorama Amritam Gamaye. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om.